Hello, everyone. Welcome to Culture Binge. This is the Wisecrack podcast where we dive into everything going on in the current cultural zeitgeist. I'm Michael, and I'm here, as always, with Serby. How are you doing, Serby?
Hi, I'm well. How are you?
You know, as good as anyone can be. And then, of course, Wisecrack, head honcho of sorts, writer extraordinaire, the man with the plan. Alec, how you doing, Alec?
I'm great, maybe. I think so, yes.
That's fantastic. As we sit here and see if I actually ruined the stream and just destroyed the work that our industrious producer has done, we're going to get into it. We got a lot to talk about today. We're going to talk about, and I know everyone was so excited that we talked about sports last time, but I'm going to talk about that again and update everyone on what's happening with all these sports bubbles. We are going to talk about the Free Britney movement. I'm very excited to learn more about this. And then we're going to get into some Plandemic related content and talk about some very good media companies and the good content that they're making. But in the meantime, you know where we need to start. Slaps and Chaps. This is where we talk about something that's great, that we're loving since we were last together, and something that chaps our ass. So, Serby, let's start with you. What is slapping and chapping in your wonderful life?
So what slaps is I have a lot of friends who live in Europe, and I'm seeing them travel. They're talking about where they want to go on vacation. And I'm like, this is so nice for you. And so seeing pictures of like beautiful landscapes in Switzerland and hiking in Italy and beaching in Portugal, it's very depressing, but also very exciting for them. I'm also running out of Netflix and other shows to watch, so if anybody has any recommendations, please let me know. What slaps? I really love Schitt's Creek. It's my favorite show, in addition to Downton Abbey. And I just learned that they were nominated for so many Emmys, and I'm super excited for them. And it's really been a lifeline for me this whole year, so I'm just really happy and really excited for all the cast and crew.
That's awesome.
That's fantastic. Such a good show. If you haven't watched it yet, everyone, watch it. Alec, how about you? What is slapping and chapping in your life?
I just really blew through the book World War Z. It's really, really good. I like it. I think in the pandemic, I'm into zombie fiction or just things like that. It might be too close to home for some people at this moment in time. But it's really good. And the movie, it just gave me extra insight into why the movie is awful. But as far as what chaps, this came out, I think, a week or two ago. DSW, the shoe company, put out, I think, the dumbest ad of a very long time. Can we cue that up, Joy?
Team, what's the fastest way to save big with VIP rewards? Go.
Give us your email and address.
Donate used shoes in store. What else? Roger, it's your birthday.
Oh, it is not my birthday. $5. You get a $5 reward on your birthday. Everybody gets $5 on my birthday?
No, but they do get free shipping. And time.
Yeah, for anyone listening to this and not watching, they are a bunch of DSW employees are talking with mask on, as is the responsible thing to do, except they're pulling it down every single time they talk. And it just makes me so, because I think, modeling good behavior, not that I exactly expect fucking DSW to do it, but I think a lot of people have this idea that like, nobody can hear them on their cell phone unless they pull their mask down. Or Brian from Real Engineering had a tweet a while ago that the flight attendant on his flight kept pulling down the mask to talk to him. He's like, you really don't need to do that. It just really chaps my ass.
It should. I was at a coffee place, outside at a coffee place where you wait 6 feet apart and order behind a fiberglass window. And there was a woman ahead of me who had her mask on and then got to the front and immediately pulled it down to interact with a human. I was so upset. So people like that exist. That's horrible. Make better commercials. Yeah. I'll be quick. Slaps and chaps. So this is going to make me sound so lame. Everyone else already knew the show was good. So many of you who watch and listen to our content have told us how good it is. For various reasons, I had to watch a few episodes of the show Dark recently, and it's so good, and I'm kind of obsessed with it now and have a bunch of tabs open on God particles and Einstein-Rosen bridges and wormholes. That maybe spoiled some things. My bad. But it's just so good. If you haven't watched that and you're looking for something to watch, it's good. It's a little dark, though. That I didn't mean that in a pun way. It's German shows and Northern European shows in general get a little grim with the violence. Chaps. Oh, this will be simple. Sleep has been chapping my ass. I'm bad at sleeping, and recently I had a stretch where I was really bad at sleeping, and it sucked. I eventually got control of it. But the thing I hate about when you do you guys know about sleep debt?
Yeah, it's not real, right?
Oh, I thought it was. Okay, this is something I've believed in for a long time. The
I don't
concept
know.
of
Someone
sleep
should correct
debt.
us in the comments.
Okay, yeah, correct us if this is wrong. But sleep debt is the concept that, like, if you lose, let's say, 2 hours of sleep a night for 5 nights in a row, then you have a 10-hour sleep debt you have to make up for. So I currently feel like I'm going through a sort of debt consolidation period in regards to sleep, but maybe I'm wrong, and that's non-scientific nonsense that Alec could debunk. So that's my slaps and chaps. Yeah, but let us know if that's real. Yeah, I'll get back to it, though. I'm just one of the people who's bad at sleeping. It's not a skill I have.
I am too.
Yeah, it sucks.
Have you looked into the Calm app? They have these sleep stories that are kind of cool.
I haven't tried them, but I will. I'm curious, if you're in the chat now, let me know if anyone else does this. I have the decade-long habit now of always listening to like podcast or audiobooks when I go to bed. Mm-hmm. I think it helps me fall asleep. My partner thinks it's a horribly destructive habit that I have that I need to stop at all cost. So let me know if I should. Yeah. Okay, well, if you're in the chat, let us know if you have any sleep habits, because I'm just curious. Maybe that's too personal, and I'm sorry if that's too personal. Now, we have a lot of great... go ahead, Alec.
Oh, I was going to say a few comments. Honey Creepin says sleep debt isn't real, but I think health consequences of sleep deprivation can add up. But also, the Dude Abides wants to ask Serby if you've tried shows from other countries. That's what Dude Abides been doing.
Oh, that's a great idea. I haven't done that. Although I did watch some show from Norway a couple months ago, but I can't remember.
Was it Occupied?
No, I can't remember anything about it. It's been a dark year for me. But if you have any great shows around the world, please let me know.
That's a great recommendation. Not that Dude Abides is capable of a bad recommendation, but that's a really good one. And yeah, there's some good services online to watch European shows, or just get a VPN, log into many European TV network stations, and they'll let you watch stuff for free. So before we get into the topics, I do want to tell everyone, you maybe already know about this, about Wisecrack's Patreon page. So if you go to patreon.com/Wisecrack, we have a Patreon page. There's a bunch of different levels, and it's great for many reasons. One is we always get comments on every video that complain about ads. And listen, it's a necessary evil. It's the name of the game. We want to make videos. You want to see them. Advertising helps us do that. But if you really hate it, we put ad-free versions of all our videos up on the Patreon page. We also have a dedicated Discord server. If you're a Patreon, you can jump on there. You can talk to Alec. You can ask Alec for recipes. You can ask Alec for advice in your personal life. Alec is there 24/7. He does not sleep. He's in the Discord channel. I promise to pop in occasionally.
You can ask me where Michael lives.
Yes.
I'll give you his address.
We are doing a giveaway for my address. We are going to dox me as a fun bit. So you can do that as well. And we started something new last week, which is doing Patreon Hangouts, where a few of us are going to jump on a live stream kind of like this just for our Patreons and talk about new videos we're working on, talk about things we haven't been able to work on and why, and take questions from you all. So if that's something you're interested in, if you think it'd be fun to chat with us more, see videos without ads, be a part of some new exclusive content we're trying out, and just supporting us in general as we try to make the stuff that you hopefully like because we love making it, check out patreon.com/Wisecrack and maybe give it a go, right? Shouldn't they?
That sounds great. I want to join and be on there.
We'll get you on there. You don't even have to pay, Serby. That's the bonus of being on Culture Binge.
Yes.
Oh,
but we know you have
why I'm. They made me pay, so I have no idea why Serby gets in for free, but such is life. Okay, so let's get into our topics. I'll be quick with this because I talked about it last time, and if anyone knows this, we had a big revolt because I talked about sports, got a lot of hate mail to various addresses that people think are mine. But last time I talked about the NBA bubble in particular, and this idea of sports leagues trying to start up again in America via various mechanisms. Now, the NBA's plan, which they're going through with, is they got a big area of the Disney Resort in Orlando, along with the Disney Wide World of Sports complex. They took everyone there. They quarantined everyone for 7 to 10 days. And then when they got there, they literally had people in a hotel room, couldn't go outside, got tested in front of their door, got their meals delivered, all this sort of stuff. And then games started last week. The official season starts this Thursday. As of right now, it's worked. They have 0 positive test results since July 20th. So since they've locked everyone in, including reporters, they've had 0 test results. And they've shown, wildly enough, that quarantining, wearing masks when you're out in public, and regular testing really helps things. So the NBA situation has gone pretty good. One fun story, though, is a player named Lou Williams from the Los Angeles Clippers got an excuse to leave quarantine, and it was for like family reasons, I guess. But then someone posted Instagram photos of him at a strip club in Atlanta, and the NBA said, yeah, and they were like, we didn't give you permission to go to a strip club in Atlanta. So now he has to quarantine for 10 days. Oops.
Of all the places to be during a pandemic, like definitely not a strip club. With, no offense to the wonderful workers there, but just don't go to a strip club now, everyone.
Yeah, and there was a rapper whose name I forget who posted the Instagram photo of Lou Williams on his story, then deleted it, and then said, was just thinking about my buddy, and posted this picture of a time we hung out months ago, and then it was quickly corroborated that he was there. But so the NBA situation, all things considered, is going good, and people are even talking about the NBA bubble as a microcosm of things we could do on a larger scale to curb and control the spread of COVID. So that's good. Bad news with sports would be MLB, Major League Baseball. They just started the season back up, and things are not going well. Now, baseball, unlike professional basketball, isn't doing a bubble. Teams are playing games in their divisions at their home stadiums. They're traveling by plane and bus to get there. There are no fans in the stadiums, and they're doing semi-regular testing, but there's travel involved. A lot of people are on a bunch of other people. And then baseball players, more than NBA players, I don't know why, have been a little bit more mask truther. Whereas most of the NBA players, if you see pictures of them in their facility, and note they're already in a bubble, already getting tested, they're still wearing masks when they're not doing games or doing media stuff. A lot of baseball players have made fun of it and are not wearing masks in dugouts or when they're traveling and stuff like that, which sounds like a recipe for success, except for we just found out about more cases. The Miami Marlins baseball team currently has 17 positive cases amongst its players and coaches. They've now had to postpone their next 6 games at least, which is 10% of the overall season. They exposed at least, I think, 2 other teams, one for sure, to this when they had active cases. They've been quarantined in a hotel in Philadelphia. A story leaked that one of the players from the team got tested positive, and everyone knew, and on a group chat, the team decided to play a game anyways. So they knew there was active COVID cases on their team, and they went and played a game in Philadelphia against the Phillies. So now that team's getting tested. That team went and traveled to play someplace else, so they're shutting a bunch of games down. Another thing that's happened with baseball is there is one Canadian team, the Toronto Blue Jays, and the Canadian government was like, hell no, we are not letting professional sports happen right now in a stadium in our country. So that team has had to figure out where to play, had offers in both Buffalo and town in Florida. So the baseball thing has gone very poorly. We are only a few games into the season, and already one team has almost 20 cases. One of the issues, of course, is if, let's say, 3 teams get 20 cases and have to shut down, how do they keep playing games? So baseball is not looking good. Last thing I'll touch on real quick is
when they're traveling, they're on airplanes with normal people. They are going to local businesses.
I think they're chartering for most of the flights. Yeah, but they're flying charter, but they're staying in hotels. And you compare this to the NBA where they are staying in a quarantined, bubbled hotel with everyone getting tested. I don't think they have those same safety measures for professional baseball players.
So are there any consequences for the Marlins considering that they've done this?
As of now, there hasn't been. The person who's in charge of Major League Baseball said, if they have to change the season around because a team can't play, they'll kind of cross that bridge when they'll get to it. I think the story just leaked within the past 24 hours, though, that the players were aware of this and on a group chat decided to play. So those are the consequences I'm aware of right now. And then shame is a consequence, I think, right?
I feel like they should not let them play this season. Like you get what do you get? Like suspended for multiple games if you get out of a dugout during a fight and start fighting with people. So
But here's the problem, right? So they're playing within their divisions. So if one team leaves the division, then there's not enough games to be played in that division to then determine who has the record that gets them into the playoffs. So the league working is kind of dependent, since they're still in the regular season. Well, they just started the regular season. Everything's dependent on every team being able to play 60 games, the same amount of games amongst the same teams in their division. So it throws the math off.
So I don't know if the NBA is like this, but basically they've set up like a quote unquote safer environment where literally if anything goes wrong, they cannot do anything about it.
Wait, in baseball?
Yeah, like by design.
Yeah.
Like let's just say a whole team was like sick in hospital. Not that the whole team's going to get hospitalized, but you know what I'm saying? Like there's nothing, once they start it, they can't stop the machine is kind of what you're telling me.
Yes. Yeah, I think it's either the machine keeps running through problems or it breaks down completely. And I do think there are sports writers who are saying at this point, it really seems like this might be a disaster and they might have to stop it anyways. And like the NBA, which has done a much better job, their commissioner, Adam Silver, has acknowledged at various points, like it might not work. And if it's not safe, we'll stop, which I think has been good, at least from a PR perspective for them. But, you know, in the NBA, you're locked down, you're getting your COVID test every day. Baseball, not so much. Last sports thing I'll touch on a little bit is the NFL, a season sport league that was not started when COVID broke out. Go ahead, Alec.
They're doing a Black Mirror with the fans in the audience.
Well, yeah, there's something like that, right? Are they using? Wait, do you know about this? Is it screens they're using?
They're like digitally inserting fans. I saw an ad,
Oh my
and it's
God.
literally 15 million merits from Black Mirror.
That's so weird. Who wants to watch that? But the NFL might not happen. Their preseason has already been canceled after the league and the players union couldn't come to agreement on safety and COVID precaution. A lot of players have been publicly anti what's going on. But like baseball, but in an extended version, they're just trying to have a normal season where all the teams are traveling around the country, playing games. And of course, more so than any sport, football is one that's dependent on screaming, breathing, touching, being very close to one another, even if you have a helmet on. So not looking good there, but more so than any league as well. The NFL seems like they're going to push forward no matter what, because freedom is football and football is freedom.
Yep.
last time I was shitting really hard on the NBA, and I just want to retract those statements.
Yeah.
Well, no, but I think we could say that, like, I don't think we should have sports, but I think within bracketing that, the NBA is doing the most responsible job that could be done doing something that maybe we shouldn't do.
Yeah, I think I was very skeptical, and I think I still am skeptical. We should keep being skeptical, but maybe good job NBA so far.
Yeah, good job so far. We'll see how it goes. If I were a betting man, and I'm not, I don't like gambling. I don't think anyone should do it. I would just bet that the baseball season doesn't finish and maybe even the football doesn't start. That would be my cynical bet there. I have a question. Would either of y'all, just because maybe you're starved for content, be curious to watch some NBA games once the season starts for something to do?
Like me?
Either of you. There's two of you. One of me. Okay, just curious. Serby, any chance you tune in and watch some NBA basketball?
I don't think so. I have watched some sports recently, and they've been piping in the fan noise, which has been throwing me off. I would like to watch something like a rugby match from New Zealand, just because they have all the full stadium, and that would be cool to see. And I'm so excited for all of them. But no, probably not.
Yeah. Well, and last positive thing I'll say about the NBA is most players have been using all their media time to talk about social justice issues and things they care about. So there has been a very positive message coming out of the league as well. So they're trying to make the most of it, and the food has gotten better because we talked about this last time. The players were complaining about the food. Supposedly it's gotten a lot better. And then the players complained as well because it was like one food conglomerate that owned a bunch of restaurant groups. And they they demanded to have some black-owned restaurants that were offered, and the league quickly changed course. And now they're offering a lot of food from a bunch of Black-owned restaurants. So that's really cool as well. But we'll see how it turns out. That's all I got on that.
If you are a professional sports player, please write it and let us know your thoughts, even anonymously.
We know that a lot of professional athletes listen to this podcast.
Dennis Rodman,
please
Scottie Pippen, please email us. I know.
Well, we got Dr. Ben.
Alec only knows the 90s Bulls, and I love it. So, yeah,
I only know players in NBA Jam, the greatest video game that's ever existed.
That game was so good. Boom shakalaka.
Yes.
Well, great. Well, before we move on, then, we do want to give a shout out to Noah D, who's one of our patrons. He was in the Hangout the other day. He's on the stream right now. You could be as cool as him if you also become a patron. The most exclusive club on the internet. The Dennis Rodman, Scottie Pippen, Charles Barkley. They're all patrons. None of that's true, but maybe. So next, yeah, I'm very excited to hear about this topic. I'm sure everyone else is. I've seen this meme all over the internet, and I don't know what it means, so I'm excited to learn about it. Serby, why do we got to free Brittney?
Oh gosh, I have like pages and pages of notes. I went deep. So first of all, I love Brittney. My very first concert was a Brittney concert.
Wow.
So totally just aged myself there. I will always root for Brittney. She's the best. So hashtag free Brittney. You may have seen this. You may not know what it is. So Tess Barker and Barbara Gray are the originators of the hashtag free Brittney movement. They have a podcast called Brittney's Gram, and they did an episode last year called Free Brittney. And the reason why they did it is that Brittney suddenly disappeared. Like, she wasn't being photographed. She wasn't on social media. She canceled her Las Vegas concert residency, and it was really weird. So they started talking about it, and that's what sparked it. So for those of you who don't know, Brittney was super popular in the early 2000s.
Oh, they know. There's no one that doesn't know who Britney Spears is.
I don't know. What if there is like, we might have like super young people who are like,
here's what I know about.
If you're 9, go back to your parents' room. You shouldn't be here.
Just saying. I feel like we should level set for everyone. She was super popular in the early 2000s. She dated Justin Timberlake.
Okay. And then she shaved her head. That's what I understand.
Yeah.
Britney Spears pop star shaves her head. Start from there.
That's why I started buzzing in my head. I saw Britney's haircut, and I was just like, that's for me. I could have long, full hair if I wanted to, but I want that look.
So between 2007 and 2008, she had a long, drawn-out mental breakdown. She shaved her head. She was filmed shaving her head. She was attacking paparazzi with an umbrella. She was taken away a couple of times, strapped to a gurney for an involuntary psychiatric hold. And in 2008, the court created a conservatorship over her estate, assets, and personal well-being. So 12 years later, it's still in effect. And under
so
her
a conservatorship is...
It's like a legal guardianship. So she has somebody who has to make all of her decisions for her. So she can't say, like, I'm going to enter into this contract with Coca-Cola. She has somebody else who's like, yes, you will enter this contract with Coca-Cola, or no, you will not. So
and isn't it the same for like even like marriage and things like that? She would have to get approval. So she's like functionally, and I don't mean this glibly, like a child at the legal level.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So she, under the terms of her conservatorship, she can't make any key decisions, personal or financial, like you two said, without the approval of her conservators. So at the time, it was her dad, Jamie Spears, and a lawyer, Andrew Wallet. So every decision, from the smallest things like buying a drink at Starbucks or buying a song on iTunes to having like a sponsorship, everything had to be approved and documented. And the conservators were paid very well. Her dad earned $128,000 for being her conservator. The attorney asked for a raise, received it, and at the end made $426,000 for being her conservator.
Like a year or over like 10 years?
A year.
Okay.
Every year. So for the past 12 years. So here's where things get even weirder. So there is speculation that she uses Instagram as a way to plea for help because her appearances are tightly controlled. So you don't see Brittney in interviews. You don't see her doing too much. So over the past 12 years, she's been like more and more closed off, and there's less and less access to her. So in one post, someone commented saying, if you need help, wear a yellow shirt. And in the next post, Brittney posed in a yellow shirt and like wrote a comment saying, here I am in my favorite yellow shirt, and something about like a florist. And there's also speculation that some of the photos and videos aren't actually Brittney. So we have a photo here, if Joy can put up. And this photo is supposedly of Britney Spears and her boyfriend. And if you zoom in super close on the woman, it does not look like Britney Spears. And like the mouth, the eyes, like nothing looks like Britney. And the comments on this photo are all saying, that's not her. Like, who is this woman? And in a lot of her other photos on Instagram, somebody likened these photographs to like a hostage photo, like where she's just like staring into the camera, like straight faced. She just looks very, very sad. So last year, following a physical altercation with one of Britney's sons, her dad temporarily stepped down as her conservator. And before that, the attorney stepped down as well. So right now, Britney's case manager stepped in, and there's a hearing in August to determine the future of the conservatorship. Britney's mom has filed paperwork to become more involved in her daughter's financial decisions. And this is why the Free Britney movement has been surging again in the news. And it appears that Britney hates the conservatorship. She said that what separates a conservatorship from a jail sentence is that her conservatorship is never ending. Mm-hmm. And there's a ton of other like super weird stuff that has gone on. But I'll keep it concise for this. So wow. I'm deeply saddened and disturbed. What do you two think?
Some of it sounds a little like far-fetched, I'll say, except I do think with conservatorships, I think they're really tricky, and this kind of gets to the Britney Spears problem, because in one sense, they're often for, let's say, your elderly parent has dementia, and they cannot be, signing checks or making legal decisions or revising their will because they are not mentally competent to do so. Like, that makes a lot of sense. And so that's like kind of the need for them. Or, there's lots of other cases like with mental illness and so on. But at the same time, I think, and this is not a conspiracy, like people take advantage of them often. I'm sure there's plenty of anecdotal examples of, mom is rich and the kids are really greedy and shitty. So they have her, sent to a nursing home and get some shitty lawyer to say that they're not mentally competent, and then like rewrite the will to their liking, and so on and so forth. And so I think especially when there's a lot of money involved, I think we should be, I guess, super, super vigilant about it. At the same time, like Britney Spears is a celebrity, like none of us know her. And so I'm also wary to say like, oh, I know that she's actually like super with it and doesn't need this, or, like a similar example with Kanye, not that a similar thing's happening, but we're not the psychiatrists, diagnosing him or talking to him. We're not even mental health experts. And so when it comes to, oh shit, like, does Kanye need to be like sent somewhere or need this kind of treatment? Like, I'm just not super comfortable saying that. And, the other side of it that you mentioned that I think is also interesting is that she's a young person and this is like forever. And I think, again, I don't know what her situation is, but a lot of situations that might sort of need that might not be permanent. If someone has a downward spiral with drugs and alcohol, like I think she did, that doesn't mean that they're not mentally competent for the rest of their life. A lot of people sort of come back from that. So I don't know.
Yeah, all that. And even if she has needed this at one point, it's just hard to imagine how you get out of it, because the skills you would need to manage yourself are skills you're not able to develop when someone's doing all these things for you. It's like if I had a baby and rather than letting it walk, I just carried it everywhere, it's not going to learn how to walk, and its legs won't work right because I'm carrying it, but it's not going to learn how to walk until I put it down. I don't have a kid, so please no one call child services. It was just a bad analogy. But it just seems like, where is she going to get the space to develop these skills And it almost sounds like if you're in, and I know nothing about this legally, but why not have like a sort of easing off process where she proves herself able to make these financial decisions, so they ease off of that. Then she's able to prove herself a fit parent in these ways, so they ease off of that, rather than this weird all or nothing. Like it just sounds really horrible. But that said, I don't know if I believe all of the conspiratorial stuff, because we just love conspiracy theories so much. We want them to be true.
But
so I don't know if I believe
my
it.
question about like the yellow shirt, for instance, are fans basically ordering like 1,000 different things that are like, wear a green shirt, wear a yellow shirt, and then she just so happened to like wear a color, you know? Or yeah.
So now they're starting to do that. I don't know if they were doing that back then.
Yeah. And the other part of it is like, you know, one case, she is fully mentally competent and is truly doing this. On the other hand, you know, again, I don't know what her diagnosis is, but let's just say she was, you know, paranoid, maybe like some bipolar thing similar to Kanye, where she thinks everyone's out to get her. Like, there is a world where she is like, oh, my father's out to get me and my conservators are out to get me. And yeah, like I'm going to wear this yellow dress because like I'm a prisoner. And in that case, is her audience kind of, if that is the case, or is the audience feeding into that delusion, you know? But again, like I'm not there. I don't know. Like, and I'm not like an expert on the Brittney and her father relationship.
Yeah. Serby, is it also the case then that when she was or is doing the Vegas residency, that all the money she's making, which I imagine is a lot of money, that she does not have direct access to? Is she essentially making money that maybe just like is going to her family and other people, while she is this sort of like show pony that like, gets put on stage to make money for others?
So I do think that her finances are tightly controlled by the court as well. You have to document everything. So I don't think it's possible, but I don't think that it's super easy for the dad to like take that money and put it in like an offshore account for himself. So, I mean, maybe he's getting paid under the table or something, but I do think that you have to provide records of like all financial transactions to ensure that there's no mismanagement on the part of the conservators. So I want to add two things. So one, I do agree with Michael, your idea that there should be like an easing off period, because her brother made a comment that said something like she's been a celebrity since she was 15 and she's never had to learn how to do anything. So it would be really hard for her to learn how to do it now. And I also think that if the conservators are in charge of every aspect of her life, then is it possible that because they're being paid so much money, they're not impartial? It's in their financial best interest to keep her in a conservatorship. So could they like withhold her medication at times so that she has a mental relapse, which then reinforces the need for a conservatorship? I think that there should be like an impartial third party like there is right now with the case manager. And if there is to be some sort of if the person has to be paid for their time, then there should be some sort of cap, so that it's not like she's doling out $428,000 to somebody. It should be something that's more reasonable that you're not going to get rich off of.
Yeah.
Because right now it's like, it's her dad. And it's like, well, that's not impartial. And then it's an attorney who's making $428,000 a year. Like, we don't know if he has her best interest at heart.
And was her dad one of those helicopter parents, the wrong word, but like, oh, I want to make my kid famous, and that's why, because she was a Disney kid, right?
She was. So
I don't trust him already.
Yeah, I don't know that he was that. I mean, I do think that he did, when she was a little bit older, like in her 20s, I do think he was more involved. But I think I read an article at one point that said that he was like a kind of abusive and an alcoholic growing up. So I don't know that he's been the most solid parent.
Gotcha. Well, I was going to say a lot of times the sort of toddlers and tiara crowd, those parents are just like exploiting their kid for their own weird fantasies about being famous or rich or whatever.
So she did that as well. She was like in pageants and all of that. Okay. So I think the family is a little bit into that. I mean, I don't know the Spears clan, but
Well, I've been converted to the hashtag Free Britney camp by the end of this conversation. So if that was your goal, Serby, you have succeeded, overwhelmingly so.
I'm leaning more towards it. I'm still a little on the fence, but like maybe like a tentative, maybe Free Britney.
I think that's still a good performance.
It's progress.
Before we move on, any action in the chat that we needed to respond to? Anything going on in there?
My non-traditional life has just been talking kind of about some of the scare aspects of our mental health care system, people being involuntarily confined in places. And again, it's the same thing of, sometimes you have to protect people for their safety, but also our psychiatric institutions have an awful track record of being really bad. Watch One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. It's based in reality. Yeah.
Makes me think of that Soderbergh film, Unsane, from a couple years ago that he shot on an iPhone that was very disturbing. That's all.
Check it out.
It was a good movie, though. Well, so speaking of disturbing things, Alec, what's going on with the new Plandemic action and conspiratorial aspects of the current public health crisis?
Oh, yeah. So Plandemic is old news at this point, but I have some new news about it. And for anyone who's not on board, it was a quote-unquote documentary film, even though it was like 30 minutes. I watched the whole thing. It's this woman, I think it's Judy Mikovits. Yeah, Judy Mikovits, who has lots of claims about lots of things in this, about how she was arrested for no reason, which is not true. She stole materials from her employer, and then, the law came after her. She claims that like Fauci was manufacturing the coronavirus. She claims lots of things. Oh, that also masks make us more sick because it's just stupid. I'm not going to even repeat it. But there's a lot of coverage about why all these claims are bad. If you're interested, go on, Snopes or just Google. There's a lot of great news articles about all the misrepresentations in this movie. What is interesting is that Sinclair Media, which is they're a company that owns a lot of local news stations in the United States, over 193 across the country. They aired a segment on their show America This Week with Eric Bolling, who used to host a Fox News show. This is from a Guardian article on it, FYI, if anyone's interested. And so they were going to air this segment with an interview of her and her lawyer. Some claims in there happen. Some of the claims in there, for instance, are that the U.S. gave $3.7 million to Wuhan labs for this coronavirus. The fact is that we gave money for the study to EcoHealth Alliances, who were studying coronaviruses and other things in bats. There's lots of coronaviruses, including ones that kill cats, that have been doing so for years and years and years, SARS, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, they make a claim like this. The lawyer's trying to sue Dr. Fauci for manufacturing and sending this virus to Wuhan. It then cuts to a doctor from the Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, which is a very prestigious cancer thing. This person is a radiologist. We're not a virologist or any of the experts there, who says like, hey, I don't really believe that, this is a man-made virus like Mikovits, but we should maybe look into the evidence. I think the evidence is pointing to the fact that it was, a natural occurring thing, but let's check it out. And just, I did look into the specific claim. That's also not true. People have done gene sequencing of SARS-CoV-2 and found that there's no evidence of gene altering. You would find sort of trademarks of non-randomness that you wouldn't find in nature. It's been peer-reviewed and published. But what I find really interesting about this, and Sinclair planning to air it, they eventually, after backlash, decided not to air it, but it's online if people want to watch the interview. It's just the way that people will air certain pseudoscientific things for the sake of like showing both sides or airing the debate. It's a thing the media often does. And I think it's a lot of the research I've come across is that a lot of the worst pseudoscience gets perpetrated this way. And I think there's like this great moment where Bolling, the host, said about one of Mikovits' claim, oh, that's a hefty claim. Not like, hey, let's dive into the proof that you're saying Fauci manufactured and sent it. He's just like, that seems kind of like intense. Like, oh, I wonder if that's rooted in things. And then, they cut to this person at Sloan Kettering who's an actual doctor, but not a virologist or any related field, to discount, but not really discount it. Similar things have happened. There's been like anti-vax documentaries about like DPT, which is for diphtheria, pertussis, and tetanus. A lot of bunk claims in a documentary that was, I think, in the 80s or 90s, and all the news stations aired it and had interviews with the people who made it, saying like, we just want to hear the side, and we're here, like let's air out the truth so that we can sort of figure out what it is, marketplace of ideas. And it doesn't really work unless you're a very good journalist. Like if Boeing wanted to have this lady on and be fully armed with all the facts and sort of destroy her with facts and logic, as they say, like that's often what good journalists do. But all he could really muster was, that's a hefty claim, and also said he hadn't even seen her videos before having her on the show. So sorry, I could ramble on and on, but I guess the real question here is, how do you feel about obviously news documenting sort of disagreements over political issues or even scientific issues is an important part of the democratic process. But at what point do we have to say like, oh no, we're not going to put on this insane conspiracy theory or this doctor who thinks that like demon genes are infecting us?
Well, like it'd be one thing, right, if one local news station had the demon gene doctor on. The horrifying thing is that a media corporation with a very specific ideological bent owned by a small group of rich people is able to produce segments and send them out across the nation to perpetuate this stuff, which is very scary. So that sucks, and I don't think is democratic in any good way or real way. But it's weird, like when I first hear stuff like this, it's kind of funny in a sick way, but then my brain goes towards a lot of people are going to see stuff like this, and as we approach an era where, knock on wood, hopefully we have a vaccine, people will not take it because of stuff like this, which will have, ripple effects in terms of public health, and that's really scary. And I think when disinformation and conspiratorial things like this can lead to real people getting sick, it's kind of scary. Not to be too grim or serious about it. Yeah.
Serby?
I agree with both of you. I mean, I wish there could be some sort of disclaimer that would say like, this is like fiction and this goes against science and peer-reviewed studies and things, but the people who put that on would never include a disclaimer like that. I don't know what the answer is. I mean, you don't want to censor things too much because where do you draw the line? Mm-hmm. And I think it's a slippery slope. But at the same time, I think something like this can cause more harm because it's like Michael said, with the vaccines, people won't take it. And also we risk exposing this to people who may not know where the information is coming from if they don't take a second to do like research on where they gathered those statements from. So they might just hear this and think, oh, is this what's happening? Is this what's going on? And then run with it. And that's dangerous too, because then they start doing it. And then we get like the Facebook like chains and all this, like, everybody be careful if you open this message, like Bill Gates will not send you $1 million or whatever, that kind of stuff. I don't know what the answer is. I mean, I wish we could just ban it, but then
yeah, I think the sort of like, we have to hear both sides of the debate. News is eager to exploit it because it's sensational, whether it's about like autism or vaccines or even like climate change. One, I forget what book it is, but had the distinction between a political versus scientific controversy. Masks are not a scientific controversy, they're a political controversy, which is to say that like there's not meaningful disagreement among scientists. And I think like as a counterexample of like, it's not that we should just like accept whatever the scientific community puts out or something. And like, if there's a minority of scientists saying something, we shouldn't listen to them. But like a good example of this is the WHO says that, COVID is not airborne, it's droplet based, but like over 200 scientists signed a letter saying like, hey, actually, we think there's evidence that it's airborne. And I haven't gone into science. I don't know what it is, but it seems like it was grounded in reality enough for the WHO to say like, oh, actually, we hear your concerns, we're going to look at it. And like, that's the way for it to work. Not like, oh, there's literally like 5 scientists we found who are idiots who agree with us. And one real sort of very tangential thing, but just about how like media can catapult in very dangerous ways pseudoscience, is I always had the notion that lobotomy, speaking of mental health crises, lobotomies were just like the science of the time and they got it wrong. But I was reading this Paul Offit book, and the way he describes it is that really there was like one or two or a handful of people, at least in America, pushing these things. And most of the psychiatric community was like, this is an awful idea. Do not drill parts of people's brains out. The guy who was really famous for doing it in America started just doing it with an ice pick. And he was a neurologist. He wasn't a surgeon. At first, he started with the surgeon drilling into people's brains and was like, fuck it, I can do it with my office and ice pick. So it was never real science. But at the same time, the New York Times was saying like this new miracle cure. And like the Kennedys famously lobotomized their daughter who had developmental issues. And like, that's the danger of like turning your child into a zombie, because like the New York Times or CNN or Fox News published a story about like some dumb fad that the media made it seem like there was more scientific merit than the scientific community ever believed in.
Yeah, I mean, it seems this just taps into a very scary, large-scale crisis of authority, and something I think is currently really bad right now in terms of like science and public health. It just seems like there's not like any fixed epistemological ground upon which we can say this is like true, and there's some like space of truth and consensus, and over here is falsehood and misinformation. Things really feel like a free-for-all right now, and I think especially I think a lot of older folks came of age in an era where the media was associated with some sort of truth, consensus, stability, or whatever, like the Walter Cronkite era or whatever it might have been. And I feel like that has taken over, where now, if in your brain from a young age, like, oh, the media can only say stuff if it's true. The media says things that are fact-checked. Well, then like online spaces become the media, and you kind of take on that same set of assumptions. Like I think I've seen this with, she doesn't watch or listen to this, so who cares? Like my mother, who's old, sees stuff on Facebook or something like that and takes it as seriously as she would a news report by a Dan Rather or something like that. And I think, I don't know, for me at least, that's one of the things I see happening, and something that I find so scary about all of this.
Well, yeah, and also back in the day when we would just trust the media, that also is with its fault. Like the New York Times was talking about lobotomies, I think in the age of like, we trust the media. And it was health journalists doing a very bad job of reporting the facts. So, God, what's his name? The science guy, the philosopher.
Bill Nye?
No. The philosopher who people accuse of being like anti-science. He recently said something like, I was warning people like that the facts, like resorting to the facts alone will not save us. Like there needs to be some better framework. And you guys just all assumed that I thought that there was no objective truth. And I think about that a lot.
Yeah. And it's just too like that, not to be too nerdy about it, but it's just like that lack of a sense of like critical thinking skills. And I'm not trying to call people stupid, but I think it's a practice that we don't have as much as a culture anymore, of like critically engaging with sources and having like confidence in our own intellectual abilities to navigate and sort through these things. And I think that's a scary place to be in.
Yeah. I just want to thank Chris Tomsky, who not only donated, but said the media did the same thing with Tide Pods. I think it's a little different, but I think it's related. Covering the news made the situation worse. They have no responsibility right now, just their bottom line. Yeah.
I get it. But yeah, like if media sources didn't cover a lot of like these batshit, doctors or documentaries, they wouldn't get as much hype. And many of us end up watching this stuff because of that. So Tide Pods indeed. Any other thoughts on this one as we're all feeling good?
Not for me. Should we get into the voicemails?
Yeah, let's do that. But before we do, you all know this. We love hearing from you so much. We love reading your words so much. So please email us at culture binge at wisecrack.co. No M, just a C and an O. Or call us, because hearing your voices is great. 213-534-8807. Once again, that's 213-534-8807. Truly, it's one of the joys of this podcast is seeing what you all care about, how you respond to what we're talking about, and to see things you might want to hear us talk about in the future. So please get in touch with us. We love it. Without further ado, Alec, who do we get to hear from this time around?
I think we have a voicemail. Joy, can you play the one from, I think they're anonymous.
Oh, the hacker group?
Hi, everyone. This is for Culture Binge. I just want to talk a little bit about TikTok as someone who does use the app. I'm very cynical about the data collection thing only because, like you all pointed out, all apps collect data to varying degrees, and sadly, I think the only way for people to truly have privacy in this day and age is to get rid of their smartphones and use a library computer. All that being said, I want to highlight a part of TikTok that I don't really see people talk about. The app actually has been a very good place for people to keep informed about political issues, and particularly during the BLM protests. During its peak, my page was flooded with videos of people at protests documenting incidents of police brutality and also giving tips on how to safely attend protests by keeping your identity sealed and stuff like that. I just want to bring this up because I feel like, especially on sites like Reddit, the app is pretty much dismissed as being something that like dumb kids use, when in actuality it does have a very strong and active political community. Yes, that's pretty much it. Thank you guys for a wonderful podcast.
Thank you for
Great.
your voicemail.
Yeah, and just in case anyone listening live couldn't hear that, the anonymous caller, we're just talking about what we mentioned with TikTok and anonymity and data, and how even though it gets a bad rap, all our apps collect data in certain ways. And the TikTok for this caller was really useful in recent protest and finding out about where things were, how to act, getting good information. And they were saying they think that TikTok can get a bad rap on other sites, particularly like Reddit, where it's a quote unquote dumb kid thing. So thank you so much for that. Well, what do you all think?
I like this call, and it actually reminded me. There's I think there's a tendency, at least in philosophy. Sorry, I'm going to go on a Jacques Rancière here. Quick little tangent, but
do it.
I think a lot about. There's this one specific moment where he talks about there's this kind of tradition in at least a certain kind of philosophy that's kind of like people are dumb and inundated by like ideology that brainwashes them, and I think you could sort of pull things about how like TikTok distracts us and MTV makes us stupid and all these things. And I think whether or not you're one of these philosophers, it's the logic a lot of people operate in. But his sort of retort to that is, you could consider people brainwashed under ideology, that they're too mired in it to see the truth, but in fact, it's the only ground that they have to stand on. And I think this TikTok example is good, is that like TikTok is like a dumb app doing dumb things that's probably spying on you in ways and selling your data. But at the same time, it's really the only thing that people have to work with, so that, whether you're, protesting something or trying to spread a specific kind of message, like that's what you have to work with. And I think, I feel, the company aside, TikTok as a medium, I feel fine about. Like, there's cool stuff.
I really felt
on
that voicemail. Yeah, I don't know. Every time I see stuff from TikTok, I'm so impressed by two things. One, how funny a lot of young people are and how they use TikTok. Like the some of the best comedy is being produced by people on TikTok, and that's awesome. And then the flip side is I'm so impressed by how socially conscious, politically active, and intellectually curious so many young people and Gen Z people are on there, where they have like TikTok videos that mix contemporary underground rap music with manifestos about anti-colonization and stuff. It's wild and it's so cool. And I think like this caller points out something important. If we're going to do this thing where all of a sudden TikTok is the bad one we can't use, like just, throw away your TV and computer, move to the country like John Prine told you to, and read books and learn how to farm, because there's no like ethical way to participate in digital media spaces and on these apps anyways. So I don't know. I felt that call. Thank you for calling Anonymous. And Anonymous, if you're out there, please use your hacking skills to erase all student loan debt. Survey.
I wonder if it's because China, it's a company that originated in China, so we are uncomfortable with a Chinese company having our data. If it were someone like, if it was like based in the UK and like the British government was taking our data, would people mind as much?
Yeah. I think it's people want to simplify it a lot to say like China evil, America good. When it's like a lot of whataboutism. Like you don't want to say, oh, don't worry about like the possibility that the Chinese government would be collecting your data because Google is, therefore like don't pay attention to that. I think the better answer is to say, oh yeah, this is bad. Lots of other things are bad. Let's try to like look at this overall, because and you could legitimately say, I think the UK government is not the Chinese government, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think separating it from like a certain kind of like scaremongering that wants to like beat the war drum against China or something like that, while realizing that the Chinese government is pretty awful. Not that, you know, other governments aren't pretty awful, but again, it's not a whataboutism. It's like, let's take a holistic picture about all the ways that all the governments are awful in their own unique ways.
Yeah. I only want sociopathic Harvard dropouts to have my data. He can have all that he wants at any time. Zuckerberg, I'll die for you. Do we have any emails this week?
Yeah, we got a few.
Awesome. Let's get into those.
If you want to email us again, culturebinge@wisecrack.co. Here's one from Rachel. Since we hear a lot about Michael's current obsession with love reality TV, especially on Netflix, I was curious if you have seen Love on the Spectrum. If you haven't, you need to. Curious what you think, extending from your previous thoughts on love, especially when it concerns minority population of people with disabilities. How can we make love more accessible? And after the viewing the show, what Love on the Spectrum has taught you about the concepts of dating, romance, and relationships. Have you seen it, Michael?
I haven't. I will be watching it very shortly.
I watched the first episode last night. It was wonderful.
What service is this on, or platform? Oh my God, great. Well, thank you so much for recommending that. I need more of this in my life. So I'm gonna watch it soon.
Yeah.
It sounds awesome.
I really like that there's a show about it, because I think there are quite a few misconceptions about autism and people on the spectrum and things. Like, people think that maybe they're not, I mean, I'm just hypothesizing, but maybe they're not capable of like deep romantic relationships. So it's nice that there's a show to demonstrate that no, like, everybody is worthy and accessible to love.
Yeah, and I also think it's like very relatable in a way, in that like there's one guy who has, like, I know it's not a normal distinction anymore, but he uses the term that he has Asperger's, except he has an Australian accent, so he says it in some crazy way. But he just has like a lot of notions about love that I think are like very rigid and kind of wrong, but I identify with it because it's like, oh, that's kind of what I thought love was like when I was a teenager, and then like I had to like go through this process, and like I hope he also kind of grows in that way too. Again, I'm only on the first episode, so we'll see.
Awesome. Can't wait to check that out.
Yeah.
What's next?
So this one is from also an anonymous evil hacker. Hey, wow. Culture Binge crew, this is Redacted from New England. Been listening since episode 1. Just started your episode on sports in a COVID world. That was last episode. And I'm also an EMT that transports critical care patients, including COVID. And I have to call out Dr. Burns for his respect towards the basketball player who broke quarantine just to get food from Postmates. Couple of reasons. Postmates is terrible. They steal hundreds of dollars from restaurants that they're trying to survive during COVID. Okay, fair enough. Reason 2, the delivery driver will most definitely be coming in contact with dozens of people in the near future. Sorry if he didn't really rant. I'm cutting it short, but sorry if the rant seems angry. Not mad at you, just mad at the player who did that. Love the show. Can't wait to listen to the rest of the episode.
He's completely right. I'm completely wrong. I can admit it. I was being glib. You're right. And I think we've talked about it on the show. I will say this. If you listen to every episode, there is evidence on the show of me talking about food delivery services being bad and exploitative. I guarantee it, because I said it was bad, and then Serby said they're the best, never tip. What? Kidding. But no, that's completely right. And I think that, like, once again, I think, like I said earlier in this episode, the key to the NBA thing working is people actually following those rules and not doing that stuff. So 100%. That's all. I'm sorry. I hang my head in shame. And thank you for listening to this podcast.
Well, here's I guess what I was imagining is like he went past the quarantine zone and like met him in a parking lot, and he like put it down and walked away. But maybe that's not what happened. Maybe they shook hands.
I think that was
faces.
No, I think what happened was there's like literally a line. The driver went up to like where he was legally allowed to go, put the food down, backed away, and then the professional athlete went and got it. Still not good. But
it's not, he's not, breathing in his face.
Yeah. And I think what we, take away from all this is some of these professional athletes, God bless them, a little spoiled. They make a lot of money. They get to eat awesome food all the time and play games on really nice TVs, and things in their life are pretty dope. So at first they were like, I'm locked into a hotel for middle-class families on vacation eating hotel food. Please get me out of here. So, yeah. But that's a good email. And you're right. We got any more for this week?
Yeah. Last one is, wow, everyone's anonymous and doesn't want their name being said. But
wow, we won't find you.
This is a person from New Zealand who says, just wanted to say to Michael, if he misses sports, there's still plenty of sports being played around the world. And I'm pretty sure you can find some high-level basketball being played somewhere, not just at the same hype level as the NBA. I know here in New Zealand, rugby is back on. It's a huge part of our culture to the point where it's actually part of people's identities here. So maybe take some time out and experience some other sports from other countries.
That's awesome. I briefly, when I lived in England, I got really into rugby for a while because I wanted to be into a live sport. So that's awesome advice. And I've watched a little bit of basketball in Germany and Spain, which is great. But yeah, New Zealand's just the best. What is there to say about New Zealand right now that isn't just like, bravo, well done?
I really like their prime minister, Jacinda. She's so great.
There was some shitlord on Reddit who was like, here's a pic of me at the rugby game in New Zealand. We get to be outside and have fun because we have 0 cases. Fuck you. They didn't say fuck you, America. That was how I was reading in my head.
That's fair.
No, it's fair. I was, again, not a sports fan, but I was like, I would even go to a sports stadium to drink a beer outside if it was safe to do so. But alas, we don't live in New Zealand.
Yeah. That's awesome. So thank you for writing. Thank you for taunting us with the fact that your country has competent leadership and a populace that seemed like down to take care of things so you get back to what matters. I still think if we just would have had we need a marketing campaign in this country that everything is framed around an event. Like if you want to go to concerts again or sports again, sacrifice now, party later. If anyone from the government of any country wants to hire me to come up with this marketing campaign, I'm ready to go. I got ideas for days.
I think we should just make Jacinda the ruler of the world.
Yeah, let's have an overlord, a one world ruler.
She'll get us under control. It'll be so great.
Yes,
no
bend the knee. That's horrifying,
Serbia
but
is
great.
an authoritarian who doesn't tip. No.
Okay, well, once again,
I would tip New Zealanders.
So write in, tell Servi why she should tip and why one world authoritarian governments could be problematic. And you can write in to let us know about that at culturebinge@wisecrack.co. Once again, 213-534-8807. And of course, we mentioned it at the top. If you want another way to get in touch with us, be involved, get deeper into the Wisecrack community, patreon.com/Wisecrack. Hit us up there. Check it out. I think it's worth a go. You can always cancel it if it doesn't work out for you, but it will work out for you. So before we go, where can folks find you all if they need more of you in their lives? Serbi, go.
Suri Patel 22 on Twitter. Also, I do tip in case you're just tuning in for the first time.
This is just a long-standing joke.
It's just a bit.
Remember
she
somebody wrote
tips
that email?
saltily. She tips, but she is like, I hate it.
Yeah.
And
if you're a server,
tips.
if you're a
She hates
server who's ever
mandatory
served
tips.
Serbi, write me on the low. It'll be anonymous. I want to know the real story.
No, I don't like it when you go to the restaurant and they're like, "Oh, you have to tip like 20%." So, but I don't want to get into it again.
We'll save this.
Serbi
Alec,
doesn't tip. Michael doesn't wipe. Michael doesn't wash his hands after he wipes.
Yeah.
I'm perfect. I'm just kidding. I'm on Twitter at Wisecrack Alec. It's right. How do I? Where's the camera? It's right there. But before you do that, become a patron. It's cool. It's cool.
Yeah, become a patron. And I'm at Michael O. Burns on Twitter. Follow me there. And if you ever are really bored, I'm starting to do some weekly philosophy streams where I rant about philosophy stuff and get real nerdy. We did one before. It was fun. A few philosophy professor friends dropped in. Oh, you can check it out. But be a patron. Be a patron. That's the best thing you do. So for Alec and Serbi, I'm Michael. This has been Culture Binge. Become a patron, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.